Let's now have a look at the structure of the TinyExcel implementation. As is often the case with F#, the best way of doing this is to look at the F# data types that describe the structure. So I'm going to start with the basic version that we will do first and that we will then evolve and change later on. In the first version, we're just going to do something that looks very much like the ML expression language. We will have expressions, so that's the expr data type here with constants and function calls. Function here is a call to a function of a given name with some expressions as arguments. And then we have references. So a reference is a reference to a cell at some address. When you say A5 in Excel, that's a reference. And the argument of this is an address, and an address at the start will be just a pair of ints. So we will represent A1 as 1, 1. And the evaluator that we will write will turn the expression into a value. One interesting thing that we will do is that we want to remain faithful to this Excel handling of errors, where if I, for example, in my earlier example, when we had the computation that was incorrectly trying to divide the population by something that was not a value, this evaluates to an error. And here we can see what error it is. In TinyExcel, we will just have an error as the possible result with a string value indicating what went wrong. And then at the end, we're going to represent the spreadsheet itself as a map of that assigns expressions to addresses. So for every cell that has a something in the spreadsheet, we will store that in a map, and we will say at this address there's this expression, and then in turn the expression can make further references to other addresses in the spreadsheet. And at the start, we will evaluate this just by recursively walking over the expressions, and when there's a reference, we will look it up in the sheet and evaluate that. So that will be our first version, and then we will want to create a version with this data propagation using a dependency graph. So then we will replace the expressions in this map with a value of this record that I call cell node, and this represents a node in the dependency graph. And interestingly, we now have both value and an expression in the node. We need the expression because we always need to remember what code was there. In principle, we want to display that to the user. We also need it when you do the drag down operation, because then we need to access the original expression. But what will happen now is that the expression, when you update this, will always immediately evaluate, and we will set the result of a value to the new value. And then the cell node also has an event called updated, and the event will get triggered whenever the value changes. So then other cell nodes can listen to the event, get the new value, and recompute their own values in turn. Later on, we will add a couple of more interesting features. So to support ranges and selections, we have to have an extra expression for a range. This is, for example, when in spreadsheet we are doing sum, the E4 colon E10, that's a range. And syntactically, a range is just two addresses, and Excel will figure out what's between these addresses, so we will have to do that. but a range evaluates to some array of values or a list of values, because you have to collect all the values and then pass them, for example, to a sum function. The other thing that we will want to add later on as an interesting feature are these fixed addresses using a dollar. So in this example, when we were calculating the ratio, E4 was just a normal relative address that is updated when you do the drag down operation. The $E and the $11 were fixed addresses that always stay the same. And so this is something that we can represent again by saying that the index in our address, so our address is still a pair of indices, but the index can either be fixed or normal. And fixed means it's this one that's written with the dollar. It's worth noting that you can do this independently on both of the column row indices. So you can say a row is fixed, but column is flexible, or both are fixed, and so on. And when we do that, we will represent the address as this index, but then we will also need to store the underlying raw address because the address with the relative indices, that's something that you have in expressions. But when you store this in a dictionary, we actually want to just know the raw address where things are. So what are the steps of implementing TinyExcel? First of all, we'll start by writing the expression evaluator that follows the grid references through the address. This is something that will be very, very familiar if you've done TinyML. Then we will implement the drag down operation that you can use to extend a formula over a range. So the interesting problem here will be figuring out how to change the addresses. In the third step, we will switch from this simple expression evaluator to the reactive structure based on events with updates. And then once we have this, we will add the event handling and actually do the recomputation live in step 4. And as the last basic step, we will write a little bit of code to turn a table that we compute into a nice HTML page, just so that we can display that to the user. The additional tasks you can do optionally is change the representation of the address to the one that supports this absolute and relative addresses, which then means you have to revise your drag down implementation to work correctly and respect the fixed addresses. Then you can add the range selection and array values so that we can add something like the sum function. And an interesting thing that is a bonus problem is adding a few flags to your implementation so that you can actually display what has changed. When you make a change, we will propagate the event, but then mark things as updated, and then you can display that in the user interface. And this is a very nice feature for debugging, because you see what were all the values that have been updated. And this is something that Excel has to do behind the scenes, because if I change a value, it will play this little animation on all the values that have changed. So if I click enter now, which I'm going to do right now, then you can see there's a little animation that happens and updates all the affected values. And if the change is very small, it doesn't actually play the animation for the values that have not changed. So this is an interesting feature you can try to implement as well. And the final step will be support this live editing, where if I replace a formula, I have to remove handlers from all the previous ones and set up handlers for the new ones. So this is a bit more tricky last thing to do, but it's what Excel has to do when you actually change the code in the formula. So you will learn how to write something that's a very small version of Excel, and this is interesting not just because you get maybe a bit of understanding of how something like spreadsheets work, but it's also useful in quite a few other contexts. One example is financial systems, where if you are writing some kind of financial system that's listening to live updates from various sources and recomputes models, those systems will typically have a very similar architecture to what you see in this course. They will have some sort of incremental recomputation. They will have to manage dependency graphs, propagate updates. They typically don't do this over a two-dimensional grid, but have some different structures. But underneath, you will find a very similar computational model. And of course, it's also interesting if you're trying to figure out how to make programming easier and more live, because a lot of other interesting programming systems are taking some inspiration from these spreadsheets to make programming more live and maybe make it more human friendly. So what we've learned so far from the tiny spreadsheet system is, first of all, is this idea of representing the computation as a dependency graph. Previously, we always had some expressions that we were evaluating, or in Self, we had objects that can send messages to each other. Now we have yet another representation, which is a dependency graph through which live events can be propagated. We've also looked at the two-dimensional grid, and in particular, there's this drag down operation that is enabled by the two-dimensional structure and makes programming easier. And it enables this idea of abstracting by writing a concrete computation with just numbers and then generalizing it across a range of values, which I think is a very powerful and very underdeveloped idea. And what's maybe interesting here is that even though we have a very different computational model, we still needed something like the good old ML-like expression interpreter. And again, this is something that we've seen over and over in the course, but it's also something that you may find useful in quite a lot of different contexts in many different programming projects.